to this very special episode of the Creating Synergy podcast. 100 episodes. Wow, when we started this podcast back in March 2020, just as the pandemic was taking its grips on the world, I never could have imagined the impact that it would have on myself, the team, and the community. We decided to start the podcast in March 2020 as a way of being able to still connect with people when we were all being asked to work from home. We were inviting people to my house to record each episode, and now, 3 years later, we find ourselves in this beautiful studio in the heart of Adelaide City. I would like to thank the tens of thousands of people who have listened in, and for all those who have subscribed and continue to support us week in and week out. Thank you to my team at SynergyIQ who have put up with me talking about the podcast every day and really trying to emulate my enthusiasm. And special thanks to my business partner Michelle, who really backed the concept. And an extra special thank you to Gabriela Vasconcelos, our podcast manager. Without you, these 100 episodes would never have happened. Another big thanks goes to my wife Laura, my two children Isla and Ruby, who have put up with me freaking out every single week with the feeling of unpreparedness every night before we record a podcast. And lastly, I would like to thank everyone who I've had the privilege of interviewing on the show. I couldn't have dreamed of meeting some of you a few years ago, and now I'm lucky enough to call you all my friends. So that's enough about me, and on to the 100th episode. And for this very special episode, I had the opportunity to invite back 4 absolute superstars who had a major impact on me and the Creating Synergy community. So we invited back Claire Parkison, number episode 94. Now Claire, you're one of a kind. Your story of resilience and grit and your passion and zest for change is an absolute breath of fresh air. Eloise Hall, episode number 82. Eloise, you're absolutely amazing and you're changing the world. And your episode on social impact and the hard-hitting truth about period poverty in the world has absolutely changed my perspective forever. Keep being you. Andrew Nunn, episode 81. Your knowledge and your passion for business absolutely inspires me. Your experience in scaling business and what you're doing as the chief entrepreneur in South Australia should not go unnoticed. Kudos to you. And Mick O'Rourke, episode 24. Mick, you're an absolute gentleman. Meeting you and recording the podcast with you had an absolute profound impact on me and the way that I lead in business and life. I can't wait to see what the next 100 episodes will bring, but for now, let's take a moment to celebrate how far we've come and the incredible journey that we've been on together and listen to this great panel discussion with Claire Parkison, Eloise Hall, Andrew Nunn, and Mick O'Rourke. So welcome back to the Creating Synergy podcast. My name is Daniel Franco, your host, and today we've got a very, very special episode. Well, to me, anyway, this is our number 100 episode, and I have the privilege of inviting some previous guests back on the show who have all had a profound impact on me through the conversations that we've had. And I'll go through quickly. So welcome to Mick.
Thank you.
Mick O'Rourke. You were one of our very early episodes, episode number 24. Like I said, had a profound impact on me in the way I lead my life and my business. So thank you for that conversation.
I'm honoured.
Eloise, you were episode, where are we? 82.
82.
It was a pretty hard-hitting chat that we had. You're obviously in the entrepreneurial world and trying to eradicate period poverty in the world, and some of the stories that you shared with us came with a trigger warning. So it was an amazing chat, and kudos to you and all the work that you and the team are doing.
Thank you.
Claire Parkison, story of resilience and grit, right? Like, our chat was one for the ages. I think it was one that had tears, it had laughter, had everything, and I just wanted to say thank you for going vulnerable when we chatted last time, and your passion for life is amazing. So thank you. And Andrew, what can I say about you, mate? Your experience in scaling business is one that we've got so much comment on and feedback on, and your efforts in your life and the way you've grown your business and what you're doing now for South Australia as chief entrepreneur should not go unnoticed. So thank you.
Great.
So just to recap, Mick O'Rourke, currently chair of Nuago, Eloise Hall, managing director of Taboo Period Products, Claire Parkison, integration executive at Oz Minerals, and Andrew Nunn, chair of JBS&G and chief entrepreneur of South Australia. So welcome everyone.
Thank you.
I have never done a panel podcast before, so I'm just going to wing this and hope that we can just have a conversation as we go along. Yeah, very nervous.
100th podcast.
100th podcast.
Well done.
Learned. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's take a moment.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment and
Take a
breathe
bow.
it. 100.
100 podcasts. What
What
have I
have you
learned? It's an interesting question. I have learned, and I've had the privilege of speaking to some amazing human beings. I think what I've noticed is that everyone's willing to give of their time and their experience. I think everyone's willing to share what they've learned, and they want other people to learn from what they have. They're not out there, beating the drum saying, look at me, I've learned this and I need to share it with the world. But they're so giving with their time and so eager to share and help others grow is one thing that's really been quite nice.
It's an amazing database now of,
It is.
of 100 people and their stories, and they're locked away. And from my perspective, I've started listening to them while I'm bike riding, mountain biking, and it's been fantastic, absolutely fantastic, because you just get lost and you pick up gems from people all the way through while you're exercising. So tick tick. But no, it was, and I think that's the best part of this is it's just a great database now. 100 is a really worthwhile list of really interesting people, and you've got their stories, so well done to you.
Yeah, it's 100 mentors, right? Like it's phenomenal. So I'm so privileged, and I just can't wait to see what the next 100 looks like. But I just want to say thank you to you guys as well for everything. So thank you for that question.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. I want to start off. I asked this question previously to a guest, Police Commissioner Grant Stevens, South Australian Police Commissioner Grant Stevens, and it was one that I loved. Like I asked it because he was talking about his junior years, his life and growing up, and I just felt like I needed to ask this question today. So, just if we can go around, we'll start with Mick. Just give us a little bit of a background about yourself, and then one childhood memory that made you laugh.
Okay, I obviously, from my accent, I wasn't born in South Australia, born in the U.S. And I've been here 27 years now. I'm a citizen. You can't get rid of me. I guess you could, but I don't want to leave. I'm so privileged to have had really 2 lives. But my early memories are obviously from the United States. And my dad was a military officer, moved us everywhere. I don't have a lot of childhood memories. I don't know what that means, throwing me on the couch. But I thought, what's one that responds to that question? It's probably when I had my paper route in New Jersey. And if you've ever lived in New Jersey, you're happy not to live there now. But it was cold, and it was I guess it was my first experience with something entrepreneurial. Getting up early every morning, sometimes when it's snowing, having to go door to door to collect money and to get new clients, getting stiffed a few times by people. I only think about it now in hindsight that I actually liked that, and I had money at the end of the day, and it probably was formative for me. So I look at that fondly. So,
Thank you.
Gorgeous. So I've only been around 26 years. I feel like I don't feel like I'm an adult yet. I don't ever want to feel like I'm an adult, to be honest. Yeah, exactly. Like where does that stop? I grew up in Adelaide, born and bred. I lived in the same house for 18 years, and I've been in like 6 since. But my dad's a car dealer, so I guess, and he owns his own yard, so I've always been around the conversations of running a business and, having staff and all the rest. Mum's a teacher, she's a teacher librarian, so there was always an emphasis on education and working really hard and just, and always a huge encouragement to learn. And my parents always stuck me into every kind of extracurricular thing possible, just so that I had the opportunity to learn what I loved, which I really appreciate in hindsight. Mum really wanted to just give me the best shot, so I did music and drama and art and all the different types of sports, water polo, like anything I could, which is great. But I think maybe earlier memories. Oh, actually, Mum always tells me that when I was a baby, just before I could walk, even just when I was kind of leaning on things, when a storm was breaking out, I'd crawl up to the window and I'd just lean on the window and laugh relentlessly at the storm. It's like
scary,
someone
actually.
was putting on a show for me, and I was like, wow, and I would just laugh and jump up and down, and I think she was quite spooked.
Yeah.
What baby loves this? This is so strange. But
Every other child's reaching for the covers.
no, I was running to the storm, jumping up
Brilliant.
and down, having a laugh.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm concerned about this.
There's a number of stories I could share there, and I actually was thinking about this. So I grew up in a what we used to call concrete jungle. It was a council estate, a few hundred houses, might have even been a few thousand. I actually don't know. And we used to, hurl around the streets. It was largely safe. It was pretty cool. It was normal in my world. We'd hurl around the streets and, play largely legal games as children. And I remember we used to run around in the dark, particularly down the side of the house where I lived in Parkside in Haverhill. And there'd be like a little alleyway, and you'd run down there in the dark, and you'd always kick something with your foot, and you wasn't quite sure what it was. It wasn't a body, thankfully, not in those days anyway. And you'd, in the next morning, you'd wake up, you'd be covered in white dust, and it was like, I wonder what that was. So we kind of, the next day we turned, player turned investigator, as you did. We went hunting to find out what these were, because we knew they weren't pine cones, because there were no trees in this concrete jungle, obviously. And we found these white things on the floor. They were like little tiny cones that fall off trees. And I was like, oh, what's that? How very helpful. We can use these to chalk on our concrete jungle and do hopscotch and stuff, harmless stuff. And we did, and we used them. They didn't last very long. They went down. So it was like a soft rubbish version of a chalk. Yeah. And we'd use them. It was only about maybe adulthood, maybe 30 years later, I realised it was actually dog poo. But it was like in those days we didn't feed dogs wet food, we fed them biscuits.
Yeah.
And it was white poo. And we were chalking for years and nobody ever knew. And I was thinking, at a very early age I thought differently. And when they say, one life froze your lemons make lemonade, well, one life froze your dog poo. That's got to be a better quote.
I like it.
Yeah,
The first recycler.
Yeah, exactly.
yes, I had no idea. Yeah. My hands haven't got hair, so we're okay. I survived.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's like the yellow snow story that you told me. Don't drink yellow snow. Is that what you?
That's a rule. It's not even a guideline. That's a rule.
It is absolutely a rule.
Thanks, Claire.
Me. I'm a bit like you. I don't have a huge amount of child. I'm one of 5 boys, number 4. But I guess one memory that really sticks out is I was 4 years old. We used to go down to the beach 2 weeks a year. That was summer holidays. Like that was it. We always go to the same place, rent a house, stay there for 2 weeks. And Dad had come down on the weekends. And so I think Dad came down. Mum had a few people over. She grab all these kids and get back for lunch. And she said, don't forget Andrew on the beach. Sure. Anyway, so sure enough, Dad's cagging everything up and forgets me and leaves me on the beach. And I'm 4 years old. Yeah. And the beach is packed. And I can still remember it. And Mum will hate me telling this story. So they just left me on the beach and everyone went home and started having lunch. And then Mum finally said, where's Andrew? And Dad said, I thought you... And anyway, so he raced down. But I remember when I was on the beach, I came back after having a swim. I think I was having a swim. And I thought, oh my God, where they gone? And but we had a little boat in those days. So I had the peace of mind. I was a bit stressed initially. And then I had the peace of mind to go, well, they're not going to leave the boat. So I went and I sat in the boat at 4 crying. And then my dad finally came back and found me. And... but he was great. He bought me a whole heap of stuff on the way back. But I thought, but the story is still in my head. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But I can still remember thinking they won't leave the boat, so I'll go and sit in the boat.
Yeah.
But it was made him, 4 years old. But that's about my only memory. Maybe I stopped thinking after that.
How much money in therapy has it taken?
I'm okay with it. It was really funny though.
I can see your eye twitching.
It was such an interesting experience because, when you got 5 boys and they're all blondies and you just lose one.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was all good. Anyway, that's my story.
That's a great story. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So this is a business podcast, so we probably should talk a little bit about business. Well, I think what's really interesting to me is we've got such a various and diverse group, and naturally we have picked this mix the token baby boomer as he says. So we
Nearly. I'm nearly.
You're nearly.
I'm nearly.
So we have got Mick. So we've kind of picked the panel on the basis of having some diverse thought around the room. So Mick,
No ageism here.
None at all.
You're awesome, Mick.
Eloise definitely fills the gap for the. Well, what did we say yesterday? I can't remember.
Gen Z, I
Gen
think.
No. Gen Z. No, it might be Gen Z. I'm Gen Y, and you both are in the Gen X.
We're X's.
X's. Yeah.
We've got the
We
X
are.
factor.
So true.
I'll let you claim that one.
We have.
So, obviously, with all your experience around the table, I'm just actually interested in what you think right now is a really exciting trend or something that actually concerns you in the world of business right now.
Interesting point.
Well, this chat, what are the 3 letters? The AI.
GPT.
Yeah, that's come out. They've been talking about it for a long time, how AI and robots would replace half the jobs. But it's always seemed like it was very far away. And there was some of the people at Nuago playing with it. Let's ask it to do a proposal on managed service, give us the 5 best points, and just put that in there. And this thing came out really good. So, and I understand they're already superior to GPs, superior to robots, are superior to pharmacists in dispensing. Computers are better than GPs at diagnosing. And you could go on and on the list. And maybe it's here. So that's both an opportunity, but it's a little concerning from an employment standpoint, perhaps.
Especially when you put 10 years of effort into study to become a general practitioner, only for a computer to take away. It's a scary thought.
They do a better job because they don't.
It's not
they
just
they can
sign
access
anybody.
millions of data points. I guess it's been happening for a while in radiology. You get an X-ray or whatever, MRI gets shipped off to somewhere else, and before it was experts in another country looking at it. Now it's computers looking at it. So it takes a long time to become a good radiologist too. And you could go through all the. I once talked to a bunch of accountants. I can't remember what the occasion was, but the biggest concern was job obsolescence. And so that's why they all get now. They all tag on to business advice advisory is tagged on to everybody who's a professional because they're afraid of the nuts and bolts of what they do is going to be automated.
Interesting point. I mean, I was talking to my son this morning before I came here, and he asked me some question about NRMA molecules and stuff, and I said,
The vaccines.
I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll put it in GPT. The full answer came out. And then he asked another question on the same issues. He didn't have to go back. And it said, look, apologies for not being clear. And then it wrote another thing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's here. Where we go with it is really the bit. You got to grab it and run it because AI and this will go through everything with it.
So
and it needs to in a way.
I got those 9-year-old and 11-year-old daughters. We got on ChatGPT and we said, write us a children's book, 600-word children's book on a zebra and an elephant who went on a journey, whatever, right? Just put in some scenario, spat out this thing. and the story was phenomenal. It was as if someone had put time and effort into this children's book. Then there's other AI that goes with ChatGPT, where you grab the book and you put it into this, it turns the story into pictures.
Wow.
So you can get AI to animate the story and then put it out in the world. And like you can almost just create a business and children's book overnight. It's pretty crazy and it's scary and exciting, I suppose. But what the fear for me with this is there's going to be a lot of novice experts out there. I think that's the one thing that really scares me the most.
But it's innovation, right? It's the front edge of it. And that's what it looks like, and it looks different, it looks scary, and we go, my personal view, we run at it, grab it, and then go to the next one, because the jobs that we can't see now, you know, the ones
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and we'll find new jobs, and we'll do new things, and then we'll push new boundaries, and I think that's the way we need to look at these things.
I think for us as humans, survival in the world that is now here is we have to work out how we play and interface with it. Because if we don't, from a consulting perspective, we become extinct. If we don't adapt, we can't compete with it, clearly. But we have to adapt and work with it because it's here. And it's going to keep growing and it's going to mature. It's not going away. It's getting bigger.
It's a scary concept, though, to then envision us as humans and how we adapt. Like, you know, what more is there? We don't know the jobs that we don't know will come, but, you know, how is that going to fit to our life, in that we need to find purpose and we need to, you know, wake up every day. I remember when I was little, self-serve checkouts were starting to be a thing, and Mum's so freaked out about it. She was really upset that all these people's checkout jobs were just gone because we can do it ourselves. And so I feel like maybe young people have this, of course it's a tool that we add to our toolbox, but I think there's also that caution of maybe not trusting that it is the best thing. Like, we've also grown up with these horror movies that, you know, pull on the characters of the evil robots that then take over the world. Like, I think there is this caution, and perhaps there's also maybe less of a gratitude to, I guess, effectiveness, and like the reasons why other people might really believe and be excited by AI. I think young people are kind of like, yeah, but do we need to do things quicker? Do we need to actually get there? Is this actually going to help us? Do we need to be that efficient? Do we need to be, just doing things at that kind of scale? I mean, I personally just don't think that's necessary for the advancement of humankind and our happiness. I don't know if it's going to really be that helpful.
I would have thought just the opposite from a young person. Everything's got to be available on your phone, or orderable now, or done by technology, which is sad to me, because that person you knew at the grocery store was a human that you could interact with. When we still went to the grocery store, which you don't have to do now, you can have them delivered. And so we all can work from home and never have to interact physically with another human. To me, that's a very sad state of affairs, but that's why you invited a baby boomer on the thing. And so I'm surprised to hear that from you, because in the end, I believe the richness of life is in relationships. It isn't in how well you got your to-do list done. And a lot of this is going away from that.
Yeah, and I think because we're digital natives, we can see that. I think there's maybe these three you guys in that generation block, it's like you've got the relationships from when you were young, and now you've seen the advancement. It's still exciting, whereas we were born into that advancement. And when we look at even just, you know, mental health statistics, people my age aren't too happy. So I think there is that desperate, like, well, what's going on here? It's because we don't have that emphasis on relationship, and this technology is replacing that I think my generation and maybe even people younger than me are recognizing that it's not actually that helpful, and maybe there is, you know, more to it.
It's an interesting concept, that the speed at which things happen. And I guess arguably things happen quickly gives you more time to do other things, the relationship thing and whatnot, but it tends to be you just add more into the day.
Yeah.
So.
And what type of things does it give you time to do? you know, if you don't have a job because of that technology, then what are you going to do with your day? It's like you still need to have, which leads
Cut a
you
video.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And you know,
Please.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
That's because of the Chinese, right?
Yeah.
It's not because I can't dance.
Is that the only trend that in the world that we're seeing right now? Like Claire or Eloise, is there anything else outside of the AI that you?
I think it's actually a little bit linked to AI. Is the whole phenomena of working from home. The whole COVID has completely shifted the way humans interact with their work world over. And we had a discussion about it this morning. I hear lots of debate about, you know, whether or not it's affecting productivity. To your point about relationships, working from home, the relationships do suffer. As an introvert,
No.
as an extrovert, I struggled a lot. I took up running. I mean, I needed rock music in my ears just to survive the day. I'm okay now, but at the time I wasn't, clearly. But I think that businesses are grappling with that.
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it bad? Was it the back of COVID that gave us our most productive year, or otherwise? Was it because people were working from home and they were happy at home and more invested? And we haven't got the numbers on that yet. You know, the world doesn't actually know the outcome of whether it's good or bad. But listening to different businesses taking different approaches to that, for me, is quite fascinating. I largely work from home. I think if you have the right people in your business, that model will work. If you're somebody who can work hard at home, then you're somebody who can work hard in the office, I believe. But I also acknowledge it's not for everyone. You know, some people die slowly working at home. I did for the first year.
Yeah. Because you're full time at home now.
Largely, yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. We've got an office, but you know, we don't force anybody to go into the office. Obviously, we have frontline staff. Although one of our aspirations is to become more autonomous to keep our people safe, because that's the only way you can keep people safe is take them out of the firing line, literally. But yeah, no, I'm largely working from home. Yeah.
So from you're into property, Andrew, and done a little bit in your time.
Yep.
From a property and commercial property point of view, is that scary when one of the biggest companies here in South Australia has decided we don't really care where you work?
Look, again, it's the way things are going.
Yeah.
It's the way things are. It doesn't mean that office buildings won't be needed. It'll just they'll either be smaller or more different, or they'll be collab spaces, or you know, some tech will come in. I just think there'll be more and more people getting involved in offices, whether they stay there long term, whether they work there all the time. I don't think so, but I think people need to interact. I think people need to talk.
Yeah.
And you know, we had in our business, the engineering business, we had everyone clearly working from home when COVID hit. But we'd be back 98, 99%.
Oh, wow.
Staff would be back, and that's at their choice.
Time, yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much. But again, so we have a full range. So we have lots of young juniors and mid-levels and seniors, right? And so that mentoring and whatnot's really important. Particularly when they're out on site, so just from a safety point of view. So then, and just bouncing information off.
Yeah.
It's just physically you have if you call up to make a call about something, that's fine. But it's often the random discussions you have, in you know, walking the hallway and the other discussions, I think, is really important, and you miss that bit. So, look, I think if anyone really, really needs to work from home, then we completely work with that. But as a general rule, we like people, so we can work with them. So
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, whatever works for each business.
I think the big organizations, they're saying working from home is great. Government, mining, banks. The smaller ones where, I don't know, the culture, it becomes such an integral part in the interaction face to face, they suffer from everybody being at home.
Yeah.
Because their point of difference, their ability to innovate, the reason that people go to work there are all taken away when you put them on the couch. Then your job on the couch has got the same culture as every job, more or less, not exactly. And so it is a big loss for companies that thrive on cultures, interaction, bouncing ideas, and that sort of thing. I think it's really damaged them.
I think that's a really good point. The innovation bit, we could do this differently. We should talk about that. There's sort of not random, but relatively random discussions that happen when you're just talking about other things.
Or you hear someone on the phone say something and you go, well, hang on, yeah.
But that culture, that's a really good point. The culture point is a really good point because I think businesses need culture, right? And what do they say? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think there's
certainly startups. What do they have? They haven't been in business. They don't have any money. It's just people getting around, and you've been part of that.
Yeah. Who believe in a direction and believe in what they're doing.
Yeah. None of my staff have ever opted to work from home. One of our staff actually has always worked remote. But yeah, it is because you need those conversations. And even though she's worked remote, there is a daily catch up just because you need someone to talk to, especially when you're making things up. You can't do that alone.
Yeah.
You end up in weird spaces. Yeah. And I guess to that question of property kind of leads into the question of just economic design in general. I've heard, I guess Adelaide specifically, been discussed as like an egg yolk. We need to consider the fact that the city is the yolk and then there's the suburbs around it. That's just how our city is designed quite well. But the fact that people aren't really coming into the city to go to work has changed the whole spread of economics generally, because you're not buying your lunch in the city, you're not going to have a knock-off after work. There's this huge evacuation that is then spread to the suburbs. Is that staying or is that coming back? How do we navigate that moving forward? There's still probably the structure of an egg, but where do we need to prioritise the investment going forward? Do we need to consider what we're doing with these buildings that are kind of ageing? There's a cool discussion about, if we can transform them into residential properties, kind of the old commercial stock in the city. It's really fascinating concept of okay, well, if we're spreading our lifestyle and our work across suburbs and city now, what does that look like?
Yeah.
There's not that typical divide anymore.
And Adelaide's interesting because Adelaide's a little bit late to the party for having, people living in the city. It's now really starting to move, but it's, Melbourne and Sydney have been doing it for years. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how our city goes with that and growing up. You can see all the towers going up now, the number of residential ones. So, look, I think it'll change. I think, again, everything evolves. It'll be a different vibe in this city, I think. The biggest problem they've got, though, is that the suburbs around are so... it's such a well-designed city, Adelaide. You get really good suburbs, right? With big blocks of land, you're living 5 minutes from the city. It's an amazing city. It really is, truly is. But yeah, that's what I think.
Just in regards to, I think, and we talked about culture, there's a fair bit of change and everything that we need to navigate our way through over the years. I want to talk back on the culture piece a little bit. And Claire, you actually sent me an article yesterday, which I thought was really interesting. Look, outside of this podcast, I run a consulting firm. We work with companies in change, complex change, culture, leadership, all that space. All things mergers, acquisitions, digital transformation, the whole piece. And within that, we work with the human that works within the business, right? That's where we feel we specialize in. And the article that you sent me yesterday, which was a Harvard Business Review article, said 75% of executives said the biggest drain on their resilience, on their own personal resilience, was managing difficult people and office politics. I'm really interested in understanding if you guys agree with this statement or disagree, and if you, what advice could you give, if you do agree, what advice could you give to leaders listening in right now about how they might be able to ease that pain? Because to me, that's because people are one of the biggest trends right now. The skill set shortage, the trying to attract talent, that whole piece. And if we're attracting this talent and yet struggling to manage them, to me, that's an area in which I believe everyone has a pretty good opinion on that here. Just keen to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I have managed tens of thousands of people in my career, and it would always be the one person who wasn't performing or was on sickness management or actually had some personal circumstances that meant they were unable to perform to the level that was required. And, I think it's really hard to get away from the human. And actually, I think that's why it's so hard. It's not a process, it's a person, a person that you're applying a process to. And that conflicts, I think, with every human bone in any good person's body, that actually, you're applying a document, a 3-stage process to a human who has a partner and children or a terminal illness or whatever it is. And if that wasn't hard, you would be the wrong person to be the leader. I don't think there's any way for it not to be hard. I think that's our makeup. We're I think essentially good. Humans are born essentially good. Obviously there's some exceptions to that, but I think yes, yeah, but absolutely human. Office politics the same. Office politics you can't control, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you sometimes hear it. It's there, and again, it's an emotive response for us, which makes it hard. It's not a process; it's psychological. So I tend to agree, but I spent a lot of years in government, and there's a lot of politics, and a lot of people that have. There's a lot of people. Yeah.
I'm unsurprised by the statistics, but I can't relate. I've always had a very small team, and I think because the work we do is embedded in a social purpose and a community purpose, there is that common ground of persistence. I guess the reason that we all rock up to work is the same. So that's the most valuable thing ever. And I think because our work isn't necessarily about ourselves, there is that external focus on supporting other people. There is that, I guess, uniting cause and reason to be there, and also to make the workplace, like everyone has to chip in to build a healthy culture. And there's that commitment to our work, which I'm so thankful for, that kind of brings us all to the same conversation of like, of course, we're going to make this enjoyable.
So do you think, Mick, I'm keen to hear your thoughts because you're nodding feverishly.
I think how wonderful it is to start companies and know all dozen people and their kids' names and have time for them. And having been in that, that's the stage of a company I love the most. But I agree with, personally, it fits my experience with the HBR article, that it's just soul crushing to have people who you have to manage that you think are actually malicious or only think about themselves, don't think about their coworkers, or to have genuine stress that you have to take on because it somehow is infected in the business. It's when what you want to work on is how do we make this thing rock? What's going on with you guys? All these are things that really charge you in life. Yet you can't avoid them when you run a company. They come up to you. So you have to address them. But I've known so many people who make exactly the same thing. I got somebody going on stress work cover, whatever. The get out of jail free card is cynically what a lot of them refer to it as. I mean, I won't tell you that, but so it is, and it's very corrosive for them. They don't get to spend the time on the kind of things that Eloise talked about.
So do you think just hearing both of your points, do you think, and to Andrew's point and everyone's point before was culture, do you think that in an early stage startup where culture and purpose is so powerful, how do large organizations harness the purpose within their organization so that people can gravitate towards, as opposed to just, I remember we did some work with a South Australian utility here that specialises in water. I won't say the name, but the purpose for them, if you actually strip it away, they're a health organisation, right? They keep people safe by providing them safe drinking water. At any given point, that water can be infiltrated and kill the snake. Then, not to mention the disease that they're stopping from the sewerage, right? So it's actually a health. And so when you work with a company like that, and you can show them, hey, look, we're actually keeping this community safe and alive. There's some purpose that people can gravitate towards. Do you think organisations, and I'm looking at you, Claire, from an Oz. I mean, Oz are a bit different. They're a special kettle there. But is there? How do we really get our large organisations back on that purpose train?
Well, it's an interesting one. I suspect it's a bit like Eloise. Once everybody is motivated in the same way, or there's an alignment of interests or alignment of purpose, it's so much easier. So maybe it's smaller groups doing an alignment of purpose. Even in a big organisation, if you've got a smaller group heading in heading directions, overall heading in the same broad direction of the company, but to be part of a massive wheel is difficult. So it's nice to be seen. It's nice to be part of a vision of a group. And so, there's studies that suggest, that sort of 12 to 15 is a good size group. Because it's sort of the first stage in the scale up. 0 to 15 is it's a nice vibe. It's a nice feel. You know what everyone's doing, where everyone is, what the kids are, and all that sort of stuff, right? So, and that's a great stage. But if you're going to grow a company, then you've got to go again and again, and the nature of the business and the systems change each time. And so I just think you've got to be really clear. If you can keep it small and tight and have everyone aligned in purpose, that's your best way, I think, to keep your culture and keep.
So each team should have their own purpose,
I think
and
so.
that aligns to the ultimate strategy.
And that aligns to the ultimate strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's known world over that the board, where there are companies that have a board, own the purpose, right? And I think all too often you see many companies hiring consulting firms to come in and help create a purpose, and the board and the executive team create that. I think that's it looks great. It's great for marketing. It looks great on the annual reports, but actually it's a short-sighted purpose. The purpose comes from within, and the people that work within build the purpose on what their purpose is to own it. Because without these people walking the same purpose and working towards the same Northern Star, it's just a marketing ploy. And that's how we've done it. Our purpose was built by our people.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It's the lack of connection to the front line, isn't it? I love the people who are dealing with the community every day. You can sit in the seat on the board having no connection with the end user, and that's where the lack of alignment is. And I 100% agree with you.
I also think the purpose comes back to pride. Like, we all want to feel proud of what we're contributing to. And if we have this very ambiguous job description that kind of contributes to some businesses' money making, but we don't really know what we're contributing, then there is that disconnection of like, well, what am I actually doing? Why am I waking up every day? Like, am I contributing to my community? Yeah. So I think that's such a gorgeous vision with that water utility company, and actually understanding like, actually my job is really important. Even if I have an administrative role in this business, my administration contribution is actually keeping people safe. Yeah. And that could be a hard string for people to draw unless you actually paint the whole, understanding.
You are an important cog in this very big machine. Right?
Yeah, and I think that applies to every kind of job. Like, even a friend of mine, he did dishy work for a long time, and he would call himself a ceramic technician, an underwater ceramic technician. And you just think, you have somewhat of an understanding that without you, this restaurant wouldn't work. And of course, that might be a more entertaining string to draw to, but you just think, there is pride in every role. Yeah. It's just we need to have this collaborative, almost. Agreement that we give people the pride that they deserve in the work that they're doing.
And he keeps people safe too.
Absolutely,
Wash it, whatever, 60 degrees or whatever it is, then he keeps people safe.
Exactly.
And happy.
Yeah.
It's interesting, that concept, though, of, the comment about office politics. And how that works in the work from home world, I don't know. I've never seen much in the way of stats on that. But businesses that work largely from home, does office politics disappear, or does it just go differently?
It goes differently, I
Probably
think.
happens in the
because
background.
you become your own. When you're at home, it's a bit like prisoners. We call it institutionalized. You actually become your own judge and your own jury, and you kind of go a little bit stir crazy if you're locked in a cell for 23 hours a day.
Yeah.
You have to be a pretty solid human to not go stir. I'd go completely nuts. So when you're at home, you have a kind of a slither of isolation fever, and you kind of start judging and questioning, and everything, you become super sensitive.
Yes.
So I suspect in 20 years from now, we'll all be crazy. Us working from home.
20 years, is it?
Okay, maybe 5. I'll be sat there rocking with my thumb in my mouth under my desk going, it was working from home. It was COVID. I blame COVID. Yeah, so you're right.
It'd be interesting. I don't know.
It's not office politics. It's just politics. It just changes. I think it just takes on a new form, like a virus. It just evolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. My gut feel that says that the hybrid way is the way.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you took it about in 5 years' time, 20 years' time going crazy. There's got to be an element of the human being going, I actually need human interaction. Isn't that core to our existence, that this community feel is
I was super excited to come out today. I was like, yay! I'm gonna miss you.
But should that be a duty of care of the business to think that way? Or it's like, yeah, absolutely, you can work from home 5 days a week, work from home, do whatever you want. At all hours, I don't care, just get these outcomes done. But then you're actually depriving that human of interaction with others.
Yeah.
Is that a duty of care that businesses should think about? Almost on the other extreme.
That's one we think about.
Yeah?
Yeah, we absolutely think about it. We check in probably more one-on-one check-ins as leaders with our people than we did in the office. We, wouldn't see people for days. And now you see like the little green light come up and you're like, oh, they're available. Boom. Hey, how you going?
Yeah.
It's more of a, it's less of a planned face-to-face one-on-one and more of a spontaneous, how you going kind of chat. But then we're a big organisation, so it's not like we've got an office where everybody's in it. We're dispersed around the world. So this actually helps us interact more than it would ordinarily.
The old concept of management by walking about or management by walking around, you might not even heard of it. But
yes, definitely.
To me, it was the most important thing I would do in the day. I wouldn't put my stuff down on my desk and walk around and read the company. Go into the warehouse, look at everybody, just look at their body language, how they're feeling, stop and talk to somebody. I got a lot of energy from that. I didn't do it because somebody said you should. But an important part of that, again, was staying close to the people and the company. And of course, working from home doesn't allow that.
No.
To your question again, I think it comes down to every leadership thing I've ever seen said, well, the most important thing you can do is vision. And I thought, oh, there's a bunch of crap when I first read it. But I understand it so much now. That's just another word for purpose, isn't it? It's another word for why do you get up in the morning? Small companies, you understand that. You understand if you won't be there, the company's got a problem.
Yeah.
Having worked at Exxon and Hewlett Packard and some big organizations, whereas employee number 45724, you don't necessarily feel that in big companies. And so it's the job of the leader to create that purpose or whatever it is. The 10-year-old TED Talk by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's another word for purpose. And those companies that are successful understand that every manager and every person needs to remind their people that they have a purpose in life. You know why you're important to this company. Let me tell you why if you've forgotten. So I think there's a lesson in it for us. And how that flanges in with working from home, we just figure out, I guess, how to do that.
Just to your point on management by walking around, I love that. As we've worked with hundreds of different companies in that, and one of the most common things that I would hear is like from other people within the business, not so much the leaders, but it's the people talking about the leaders, is they don't even say hello. Right? Like, it's just the most smallest things is what makes a culture, right?
Yeah.
And I think when we're walking around and we're sharing and we're caring, I remember even just working in a very large organization, 2,000 people. It was the first week or 2 weeks that I was there, and the general manager knew me by name, knew where I came from. I'd never even met this person. And he went, "Hey, Dan, how are you? You've come from here. Great to see. Great to have you on board." I was like, "This is amazing. Like, how good is this?" So the smallest things make impact in people's lives. And I'm just concerned you can't do that over Zoom. Well, you can call them up, but is it? I don't know if it's the same. I'm with you. I'm just this in person. But
Well, on the receiving end of it, you think, oh, whatever, they've got my resume in front of them on the screen next to this Zoom call. Like, this isn't that personal because you could just be reading this. Like, this is a script. I don't know that you care because there isn't that. Yeah, there's nothing. There's so much in between you.
Correct.
But if you're having a face-to-face discussion, it is just you and that person, their knowledge, their interest.
Yeah. Funny thing about this was in the men's toilets here.
Well, I saw.
It was in the men's. He walked in. He goes, "Oh, hey, Dan." I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you remember it,
"Yeah,
right?
absolutely."
It's a very human thing to be. I'm in this organization.
Yeah.
He knows my name
Yeah,
or
I'm not
she.
4724 or whatever.
Yeah.
So going back to your point earlier about the AI being something in the world that's exciting or a threat, and listening to what everybody's saying, the bit that the human brings to the party is the tactile, the sentiment, the feeling, the emotion. We'd be in big trouble if AI got smart enough that it brought that to the party.
I don't know if it can,
Then
though.
we're
Not
having
that
a whole
far if
nother
what you want to do is
conversation.
interact over a screen.
Yeah, well, if you
It
walked
can
out
fake the
lift-
video of you,
Yeah.
fake the emotions, say, what should I be saying now?
Yeah.
I don't think we're that far from somebody being able to fake Claire over the computer and fool somebody.
Yeah.
and that's the worry. That actually we get out of a lift, it says, "Good morning, I love your hair today. You look a bit tired. How are you going? How are your kids?"
Blah.
Then we're in trouble.
The technology is here.
The technology are already there.
It's already there.
Well, you got those avatars, I think,
it's
where you have a friend and they learn about you every time you talk to them. They learn about you and they talk back to you, and you can have a conversation with the avatar.
Yeah. Well, it's a deep fake technology.
So what's the value then, apart from
scariest
obviously reproducing? If that's the case, if it can do everything bar reproduce, what's our value other than to reproduce?
There's a TV show on this.
Holy moly!
It's called Altered Carbon, I think. Have you seen it? Yeah. So it talks about the body, the human body, being merely but a vessel. That is it.
Yeah.
So you plug in a thing in the back. It's a bit like the Matrix sort of things.
Yeah.
But you plug in and you're in this. But if your body dies, then your stack is what they call it. Is just replaced into another vessel and carry on. They just reproduce human frame. Yeah, it's pretty.
It's actually a great show.
It's a great TV show.
Well, and the reality is supercomputers now have really distorted our world, and they affect us every day. You wonder why there are so many people, young people with anxiety and everything. Their job is to keep you online. And sorry, I'm going.
No. Don't.
Their job is to keep you online, keep you distracted, and keep you angry. Keep you on Instagram and TikTok and all the other ways you can stay in front of a screen. And they aren't good things. No. They're to distract you from focusing.
Yep.
And I read a book recently that said your life really is the sum of everything you pay attention to. And these supercomputers are causing us not to pay attention because we don't have the time. We turn my phone over. How much anxiety do we have right now because our phones are over on those desks and not in front of us? So, and the young people who've never had any other experience, will they have the tools to fight against these supercomputers? I think we might be losing the battle, unfortunately. I hope we don't. I'm a hopeful person. But we're already in a pitched battle with incredibly smart computers.
But then
shows up everywhere.
they make you feel insecure, and then they give you solutions to the insecurity.
Of course they
buy
do.
this and you buy this. So it's very difficult for the kids. very difficult. And like every parent, we struggle with screen time. Get off the screen, get off the screen. You know, games like Fortnite are literally designed to keep you on. And it keeps changing so that you get back on.
Not going to lie, my kids play Fortnite and I love it. I love just getting on and having a game with them, right? Like, so I'm almost part of the...
You're part of the problem. No doubt.
Gaming's a secret thing that I do. I just think actually from a meditative point of view, gaming is good because it just helps me
switch
off and just concentrate purely on...
I have maths for that.
Yeah. The drama.
That's the problem with a lot of things that are fun at first. Watching Netflix, gaming, getting on social, playing, doing whatever, drinking. To a point, it actually helps you and it's really constructive. But what happens is we often get pushed way beyond that point, and then it's absolutely destructive.
Yeah.
It's not being able to emotionally regulate, is it, and pull yourself
Well,
away.
and they're kids, right? So that they don't have that real ability
They're just
already.
human beings.
No.
Yeah.
And not to get too dark and political, but there's also the political element to the echo chambers that we're producing for ourselves. Like I did a topic at uni about digital governance and the effect or the threat it has to our democracy. And it's quite terrifying. Like there is a lot of eroding trust that we have in our governance because we have such a huge access to every piece of information we could ever want to think about. You know, we don't know what's true. We don't know what, like, truth in itself is this concept that feels ambiguous now because there's just so many pieces of news about the same thing with 40 different angles that, you know, people are being fed according to their echo chamber, where we are breeding this very divisive community. And because we're putting less emphasis on human connection, we're missing out on the human element of it too. We've got these theories that all of a sudden divide our understanding of people and, you know, our differences, that it becomes a difference. It doesn't become a different person. And it is quite a scary concept, knowing that the fuel for those echo chambers is to keep us attached to our device. And that is because it's breeding money. People, you know, the more people using it, the more money that company gets. It's kind of, not to sound basic, but it's all just embedded in greed and capitalism. Like, where do we stop? Where do we put the boundaries in? Because there's no end to money in the eyes of these companies who, you know, have so much invested. And then there's the whole conversation of investing in data as well, big data. Like, when are we going to give that a good thought and understand the value behind the investments that we're making on this big data exchange? How is that going to end? Like, what are we actually investing in? Is there any true value to this data other than the exchange of information and pressure for people to, you know, chip into something that doesn't have any value? I don't know.
It's a big world.
And big questions for our state then, how we move forward in this environment, right? So, you know, the state wants to drive innovation. It wants to, you know, be cutting edge of a whole range of new industries and currently, you know, submarines and a lot of things will spin off that. In this environment, where does the state go? You know, that's what I sort of ask myself. So where do we go with innovation? What are we giving young people the opportunity to do?
I feel like as a state, we're a little bit bipolar at the moment. There's mining, there's defence, there's health. Now with, you know, there's so much, lot 14 with the startup, we're trying to be next Silicon Valley. We've talked, like, all this sort of talk that's going on in the world. Do you think that's a problem for a state of less than 2 million people, that we're trying to be so much in?
Well, do we know what our purpose is?
As a state?
Yeah, what's our purpose?
Does any state
Well,
or any country?
And if they don't, why not?
That's true.
Why not? I mean, what is South Australia's purpose? I mean, what is it? We all know we have a brand, which changes whenever there's a change of government, but what is our purpose? What is our purpose? Is it to grow? Is it to be the world's most innovative state? Is it to attract the younger demographic? I mean, what is our purpose? Until we know our purpose, how can we possibly succeed?
Well, who decides that? Because the government changes every 4 years.
I agree. And there lie another issue, right? The people need to decide what our purpose is. Otherwise, it's a government initiative and it's a cyclical one, and it changes again.
Yeah, I think you'd be really clear on, what you actually want to be, and we don't. And I spend a lot of time telling people, we don't want to be Melbourne or Sydney. We don't. We're just really good at being us. Yeah. Great question. What is us, and where is us going? Is a broader discussion that we need to. But again, going back to that whole discussion about alignment of purpose and small groups. One of the real advantages in South Australia, in my mind, or particularly Adelaide, is the degree of connectedness. The 1 degree of separation thing.
The Goldilocks.
Yeah, it is. It's just about the right size to do just about everything. So I think I think we've got that. We should harness it and use it for good. But that ability to be really clear on our purpose and articulate that, and then build around what we do better than anyone else, and not have this desperate desire to be them, because we don't need to be them, and that's I think that's where we've got to be really clear on our state, and social impact I think is just such an important thing, because it breeds so much joy and happiness when people have purpose. Look at your company. Look at the people come there, they probably skip into work because they they believe in the purpose.
Well, it has the ability
really
to
important.
change the world, right?
Well, it does. Well, particularly in the world we're just talking about, that's sort of got this sort of dark and changing edge to it.
Yeah.
To go back to purpose, then go back to social good, gives a real good focus on where we could really add value. I think.
I don't think the government is structurally set up for purpose. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, as you can probably tell. But his book, The Infinite Game, it says you should run a company as if it will live forever. Make your decisions like that. Not, I'm going to get my payout, I'm going to do this. And you will end up doing the right thing and achieving your best potential. But the nature of government is to change every 3 or 4 years, as you said. It's impossible for them to have an infinite game concept. Impossible. And it attracts a type of people who just want their 3 years in the sun, and not everybody. I don't mean to disparage all government. So if you look for government for your inspiration, I think it's going to be a long wait. And I don't think it'll ever happen. It's got to grow from the people who live here. And I can tell you, having worked and lived in a lot of places, South Australia is just fantastic environment. And when I moved to Australia, you couldn't have gotten me in Melbourne or Sydney. Why do I want to live in a big old city where I have to commute forever and it's just
Not know thy
a
neighbour.
blob? But it's not, if you've grown up in it, that's all you know. You're not the big smoke, we got to go to London or New York or someplace, because that's where really the action is. And not until later you realize, that's a big
we're the two here and the two youngest here that have grown up in Adelaide, and I look at the rest of the world like the big smoke and all the above and go, we're never gonna be that. But what I would love is more bigger industry here, bigger businesses to attract more talent, right? Like opportunity. I am South Australian through and through. Like, I breed and love this state more than anyone, I think. And 1 degree of separation. For me, it's how do we, and we've done an episode with Bruce Jide, who was the committee for Adelaide now in the Property Council. We talked about growing the population, and then we also done another podcast with Adrian Temple, who's the chair of the South Australian Productivity Commission, about how do we attract more people here. And what's scary is that the numbers are actually showing that our age group are leaving in droves, and that the older, the X's and the baby boomers are coming back to this state. Right. So the numbers are showing a positive number, but the younger generation is still leaving. How do we keep them here? Is business, is it education? All those sort of questions. What is that? Where do we go?
Do we want to keep them here? Just hear me out.
Young people should go, right? Is that?
Young people should go and experience the world.
That's true.
They should come back, right? To get them to come back earlier would be great, right? And I think that should be the target. But I don't think we should ever stop young people going out, because I think the people that disparage Adelaide the most are the ones who have never been here or have never left, right? And so once you put it into context, it all makes sense. So the more they travel, I think the more they come back. Ultimately, the thing is to create enough lifestyle here, they want to come back earlier.
Yeah.
I reckon that should be our game, and not, we shouldn't call it a brain drain. It's actually a brain gain. They go over, they learn stuff, then they come back and build something, right? That is what we should be doing.
But does that happen in Sydney? Does that happen in Melbourne? Do they have, like, if 1 out of 10 people in Sydney go interstate or go overseas, right, in that age group, it might be 7 out of 10 people in Adelaide go. Like, the numbers are pretty extreme.
But again, you look at it and go, we don't have the same lifestyle they have in terms for young people to have lots of stuff close into the city. We're building it now and it's getting better, and that's why I think you'll find more young people want to come back earlier and stay and start a family and all those things. For the reason we talked about the egg and the great suburbs and whatnot around is the reason people want to come back. And so I think we need to elevate that. It goes back to that same thing about not trying to be somebody else. Just do us better and people will come back.
I also kind of want to disagree with the point earlier about brand. Just because I think if we start pocketing the purpose of this state, then people will feel claustrophobic in that's like what we need to achieve. I actually think what Adelaide or South Australia could focus on is the diversity of opportunity. So the whole question as well of, like, we've got defence, we've got space, we've got all of these different angles. I think that's what we need to keep growing, because at the end of the day, we are such a diverse group of people. That's never going to change. In fact, we want to encourage that diversity. So I feel like need to make space for more diversity, for less kind of one vision, because I don't think we're ever going to agree. There's always going to be forgotten groups of people. So I think we need to kind of flip it in the totally inverted way and think, okay, great, well, we have a diverse people. Let's make this economic landscape diverse as well.
I'm interested in your thought process on, you mentioned the submarines and the AUKUS program recently that's been announced. If South Australia was a defence state, right, which is purely only defence, a lot of the younger generation don't actually believe in the defence world at all. Do you think there would be an exodus if we were just the defence state?
I don't know if it's that we don't believe in defence. I think there's this hope and kind of optimism that we can live in a world of peace. And like, if we're thinking generationally, my great-grandparents had World War I, my grandparents were in World War II, my parents are the kind of product of that survival. I'm born into the generation of, why the heck did those wars happen anyway? Like, I've grown up in, generally speaking, peacetime. There is that frustration that there isn't that focus on peace. We're so distracted on making so much money and building so much business, and that it becomes this huge competition. Like, I often think of this concept, if there was if there were aliens on Mars and they decided to invade the Earth, we'd all be friends. We'd all be like, oh, gee, there's this like common threat. We should probably work together and be mates and stop having to go at each other. I think there's that. I feel like that conversation isn't happening. There isn't this emphasis on peace. There's this emphasis on, sovereignty and security. Obviously, that's important because, it's not like I'm denying that there are threats out there, but there's no conversation of peace. So I think it feels forgotten and it feels ignored, in that, like, okay, well, if we're just focused on defence, you can't help but think that there's some essence of aggression in that, because what are we defending? Because we haven't had a discussion about peace. Are we defending our freedom and our peace? Because, why there's no celebration of that in a healthy way, in an honest way. So I think it is about that framing. And again, the purpose. Okay, if we're defence, then why? Is that important? Do we actually find that value there? And we probably would, when we unpack it in a really honest way, in a way that's kind of designed in.
Well, now this is where baby boomers will always come up.
Yeah.
My father was almost killed when my mother was pregnant with me in Korea. It lasted 2 months. That's about what a second lieutenant lasted in Korea. And, I barely avoided Vietnam myself. I went 2 years to the military academy at West Point. So, and my father's a military officer, so, all this military stuff. And my son went to Nunn for a while. So if the world were like Australians, it'd be a fantastic place. Australians travel to America and they walk out in some ghetto and they think they're not going to get mugged and that just all get along, mate. And they don't because their accents. Where I go there, they kill me. So that's the going in a lot with Australia. We're such a great, lucky country. Why should there be war? But if the Chinese were to, and I have nothing against Chinese people, but the Chinese government, it says we're going to take Taiwan, 25 million people on an island. Does that ring a bell? And because it's ours, and because we can, and we will by 49. They'll probably do it a lot sooner than that. And then they're building deep water ports all around the Pacific, reconstituting islands. You can have peace if two people want to have peace. But is it incumbent, isn't the first thing a government should do is defend its people? My vote is yes. That's the first thing it should do before everything else. Yet we've been lucky and we've been remote and we haven't had to worry about that. But if Taiwan were to get invaded tomorrow, it could happen tomorrow, our world would change radically. Not only would all the chips that are made there all of a sudden go away, you couldn't buy a car and a whole bunch of the other things that are in short supply just due to supply chain now. It would probably stop. Our world would change even if they didn't invade us. So this is going to happen potentially right away, whereas the oceans might rise in 2100, and they may or may not. But there is a much bigger existential threat to us right now. And we don't have a choice to say, well, it would be ideal if it was like this. So I apologize if you feel like I'm lecturing.
No,
I really don't want to do that. But it's clearly on my mind when I look in the eyes of my grandchildren. What, you're going to have to speak Mandarin and wear something special? I mean, probably you never even think about that, but I do.
Interesting times.
It is. Bit of change about. Which leads me to think.
I was reading on the news this morning, not local news here, but I'm Googling, as you do, and I see the UK government has put a ban on TikTok being used on any government phones. And I was reading into it and I was like, I'm so naive, blissfully unaware, blissfully.
Well, even the cameras, they've taken them out of, Chinese-made cameras out of every government building now.
Wow.
If you own a business in China, you're required to share the data that you get. That is an absolute requirement. That's just the way it is.
Call this, this will probably be the most naive question that I've asked, right? But like our government changes, right? The Chinese government at some point, will it ever turn? Will it ever get a leader in place that goes, actually, no, I think peace is my option?
Xi has just put himself in for life, like Putin has.
Yeah.
They've changed the law so he can stay there as long as he's alive.
I have, I did a topic on the the relationship with the US, China and Australia, which was super interesting. And one kind of piece of information that I've clung to is China's one-child policy obviously is ceased now, but the effect of that is about to kind of ripple in the next 20 years. And when you look at population stats solely, they're not really that much of a threat in 10 to 15 years, just because their population is dropping so drastically and aging so drastically. So I had a lecturer kind of hint that we kind of have to just push through the next 10 to 15 years and then the threat is going to be significantly reduced. Obviously technology and all the rest is still relevant and that doesn't age as rapidly, but it was kind of interesting. And he said that with such conviction. I was like, okay, cool, sweet. We'll just hang tight.
Yeah, it doesn't take that many people to man a nuclear submarine.
No, of course.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But yeah.
For a big, young, land army, that may be true, but technology is the force multiplier, and the Chinese are investing in it in a huge way.
But also, people bring money. People bring the resources to fund and fuel and
make the whole place just grow. Yeah.
Yeah. So of course, you don't need that many people on the ground, but you need a whole country full of people to fund it and to pursue it.
So we're talking about threats, we're talking about change, we're talking about leadership, all in this conversation. I think kind of good segue into the next question. I don't want to get too political with this one. We could go on forever, I understand, but I think everyone sitting right now is a leader in their own right. I'm interested in, we're talking about threats. Where have you as an individual felt threatened in your role as a leader? And what did you do about it? The threat could be, the threat of the business going down or whatever it might be. It doesn't need to be a physical threat. But where have you felt like you've almost been derailed as a leader? And what did you do about that?
Mine was a values thing for me. Not in the role of the company I'm in now. It was many, many years ago. And it wasn't a government organisation. And I remember I was in a de novo role. I was essentially Switzerland, so I was kind of the interface between multiple companies, and my job was to deliver an outcome which delivered best for government. And I had been given a sum of money to employ somebody, and the right person for the job that would also come in and also be Switzerland and also be completely de novo and everything else. And I was quite naive, and I was told who that person was going to be. Mm. And we didn't go through a process, and that compromised me as a human and a leader, because I knew that my primary responsibility was to be Switzerland and be de novo, and therefore I wanted to run a recruitment campaign. I didn't know who the successful candidate was going to be as a result of that. I didn't know anybody that was going to apply, or even if anybody would apply. But I was challenged beyond all measure, if you like, on that process. And that was probably the first time I'd faced, I'd say it was kind of an inequality, really, in that this was a predetermined decision, but we're going to package it as the right decision. And that was my first real experience in whether or not I go to bed with my integrity that night, or whether I fight it, knowing that that could be a massive impost on my career trajectory in government. Mm. Yeah, that was for me out there. Mm.
And you obviously stuck with your integrity.
I slept with my integrity, and went to private enterprise. Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. Mm. Beat that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think integrity as a leader comes up every single time, and doesn't it? There's so many ways that you can skin a cat, but I think choosing the path of integrity and working to your value set is definitely the lesson that we should all follow.
But I think the trend is the other way.
Scarily, it is.
You look at Donald Trump. He has zero integrity, zero compassion. And I'm sorry if there's Trump fans listening to this or here in the room, and I'm a lifelong Republican from the States, but integrity doesn't matter. And it's been getting less important every year. Even starting to infect Australia. That's why I want to stay in Australia. It's much more intact than it is in the United States. But the trend is in the wrong direction. Look at Morrison deciding he's going to have all these portfolios without telling anybody. That's such a low integrity move, but it seemed appropriate to him at the time. He rationalized it. And in general, I think it's harder to live as a person with integrity because you pay for that integrity financially often. And so the theory is, integrity, that's the way to go, but I'm seeing it slip away everywhere.
Does that concern you?
Well, yeah. I mean, the issue there is that clear visibility. Who's the leader? Who's setting the tone? Are we all following on the same vision? It goes back to those same things. You have to be really clear about, do I believe in the vision and do I want to sign up to it? Because I think people these days are very clear on, if they don't believe in the vision, they genuinely don't stay. staff are much more transient now than they used to be because there's a lot more options. You've got 3.5% unemployment, which is effectively fully employed. If you want a job, you can get one. If you don't believe in the vision or in the integrity or the focus, then you should get out. You should, vote with your feet. And I think that's appropriate. I think young people particularly do that. And so we, in our engineering business, we spend a lot of time engaging the young people about what they want to do, how they want to run their business, how they want to run their business. And we want it to be their business. And it's, yes, it's got to be a focus. Yes, we've got to make money. Yes, we've got to do the things we've got to do, look after the clients. But they've got to want to come and they've got to want to be there. And integrity is absolutely core in that. No one wants to work for somebody they don't trust, or don't believe in. So I think it's really important. The concept of ever feeling threatened as a leader, I can't think of too many. But from my perspective, best advice I always got was make yourself redundant in every role. From the very first day, start thinking about how you get out and how you bring somebody else up. And so then that issue, it's almost a shared journey then, because you're finding out who's going to be my replacement, or how do I change the role so that I've got multiple replacements, and then I can go do something else. And the joy of going to do something else is sort of embedded in me now. But that concept of bringing the next layer up and empowering them, and then moving on, and being really comfortable moving on. Back in the day, it's people, when I started engineering, the guys were there forever. They got in their roles and they stayed. And if they got to that level, they stayed. And you had to wait almost for somebody to die or retire before you could move up. So my view is just keep changing the business. Let it grow, let it be new, let everybody have a bit of a decent role. The cream rises. Give it room to rise and it'll rise. And so that's my view about this whole concept. I don't actually feel threatened.
Do you feel like that contradicts or complements Sinek's infinite game? The idea of making yourself redundant, because Sinek's infinite game theory is.
I think the idea of making yourself redundant is just consistent with good business. It's the mechanics of good business. But the infinite game is more philosophy about what's your scope and time frame. You're going to make short-term decisions or long-term.
Excuse me.
But the issue of being afraid that something is going to go on in leadership, I'm on the end of my career, and I really haven't had to deal with this, everybody go home, and now I'm going to lead you. Because I have studied and looked a lot at the difference between management and leadership. And, management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things. But it's also bringing people on the journey. And I think that, again, when you disperse everyone, and they're all now just on the screen, it's a challenge to leadership that you didn't anticipate. Hey, we had to go home as a pandemic. But then everybody started resigning because leadership took such a big hit. So they called it the Great Resignation. What is that about? That's long COVID for businesses, in that everybody's now thinking about, well, what's right for me? What do you have for me? And so the turnover's been massive. For a lot of companies, engineering companies, IT companies, and it goes on and on. So that's been a big threat to leadership. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with it that much.
Well, just on the leadership front, I mean, and we talk integrity, and you've mentioned capitalism, all the above sort of wraps into this play. The world is moving towards how we make money, right? And there are people starting businesses with this core focus of making money. Purpose isn't so much their strength, but it's about how do we get return on investment? And so I am a big believer in personal development. I know you are, Mick, and you're a big reader. I think everyone here is interested in their own growth and development. Do you think, as a leader, in order to play to your values, in order to play to your integrity, you have to consistently invest in self, invest in your own mindset, your own growth?
Yeah, I think there's almost to the point of threats as well. Like if you are, especially in the space of innovation or startup, you have to be carving a new path. Like it's not an innovation if you're walking along the path that someone's already written. And so I think to do that, you have to have the conviction in yourself and your own understanding of how you envision this journey to go. You have to have the conviction to keep persevering. And I guess an example of a threat that maybe I more consistently experienced at the start of my journey, starting my business, was, you know, I was a 17-year-old young woman who had this vision of a social enterprise that could, you know, eradicate period poverty. Is very ambitious, and that ambition's still very much here. But, you know, I had middle-aged men who I'm trying to make a business deal with ask if daddy's money funded the company. And, you know, just shut down so many visions and, you know, really hard work. You know, we spent 2 months crowdfunding, and then the week after our crowdfunding ends, did daddy's money fund your company? You think, oh, like, you know, that those are the threats, I think, for me, have been the status quo. So to have the conviction of a leader who's making an innovative path forward and painting new visions, you have to have the conviction. You have to be investing in yourself to actually understand that what you're doing is true and it is, you know, important for the community. There is value there, and that takes constant reflection. There are so many points in the year where I have to stop and think, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because I need to know that this is still true, this is still relevant, this is still valuable. And then you've got your next bout of energy, really, to keep pushing forward. And then that comes from obviously personal development, personal reflection, but also just shutting up and listening to people's, you know, advice and insight, letting people throw their 2 cents in, your team especially, and then, you know, mentors, family, friends. I've had friends tell me that I've been really flat for 2 months, and you think, oh gosh, I haven't noticed that. I haven't picked up on that. Thanks, because now I'm going to go think about that, why I haven't, you know, been interacting as much. And you need to constantly be keeping tabs on yourself, but also giving yourself time to celebrate and, you know, pat yourself on the back. Yeah. The simple things. You got to stop and breathe. Yeah.
So, I mean, talking about you right now, you're very self-aware for someone at such a young age. I don't think we see, I think, you know, Eloise is almost a unicorn at that age. Do you think that there is a leadership issue right now in organisations?
In terms of not providing...
Well, I mean, management versus leadership, right? There are people who can manage but have no idea how to lead.
Oh, yeah. Look, I think there's never enough really good leaders around. Probably.
Well, what does a good leader look like then?
Well, I mean, as I say, you wake up in the morning, you're looking forward to going to work, you believe in the vision, you believe where we're going, you want to expand where you're at, your horizons, you feel like you can. You know, all those things that make you feel good is important while you go to work. You know, money, yes, and all those things, yes, but you like to feel good at the end of the day. You know, the concept of investing in yourself, I think it's really important as leaders that you keep looking back on why you do stuff. Why? Because you do get lost doing this. Every now and then you've got to put your head up like the meerkat and have a little look around and say, am I still heading in the direction I thought I was? And you do have to question that, I think, a lot, particularly when you get really successful. Right. So when you get successful, you start to believe your own marketing, which is always very dangerous. So you need to go back to, why did I do this? Why did I set this up? But for young startups, I think it's great that young people, probably the best part of my job as chief entrepreneur is talking to the young people about their ideas. Probably the best thing. Even at school level, when you go into the senior year at 10, 11, 12s and talking to those kids who get it and they're going to start their own businesses. They're just going to, because they're just driven to do it. Yeah. And they feel like they can. Like when I did it, I thought, you know, there's not a lot of help around. Not that I needed it, I just didn't even think about it. Yeah. I just got on and did it. Now there's so much help and support around. If people reach out, it's great, you know. And we should encourage more, because I think people will end up working for themselves. They'll develop their own purpose and they'll head off. And I think that's fine, right? And drag people along on the journey.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also important to make it, give people space to be leaders. Like, there are so many people that I can point out in my life that would make phenomenal leaders, but why would they want to? You're the first person to get shot down. You're face of every mistake ever made, you know, in that journey. It's
a
not
stressful sport.
Yeah, and we don't really give, I think, leaders enough credit. Like, we're so quick to point out where they've made mistakes, which is, we need to keep people accountable. We can't take that away. But, you know, we're also, I think, missing out on a lot of leaders just because they understand the, you know, depth of the work they're about to do. Like, that saying, we don't, like, the people who we need in leadership positions are never the ones to sign up because they understand the weight of their responsibility. If we actually had maybe put more of a community focus on lifting those leaders up into some more supported environments, perhaps we would find we have better leaders around.
Your question to me, and to that point earlier where you said, what is one thing you've learned? What Eloise has just said then is triggered. Well, one thing that I have absolutely noticed in all the leaders that we've had on is that they're all still trying to figure it out. No one actually has anything figured out, right? I mean, Mick, you're nodding there, and it for me, it feels like this constant strive to consistently improve while trying to, I don't know if this is the right way, or for lack of better saying, for trying to keep everyone else happy, right? And trying to create a culture in the organisation that everyone wants to work with, but still while you're trying to figure it out. So you're going to make mistakes. You're going to say things that are going to contradict what you said yesterday. You know, things are constantly moving and changing. Clarity is really hard to give to everyone because you actually don't know. Like, all these different things come into it as a leader. That's why I think you're right. And when you say conviction, it's about, and you know, we've talked about grit and resilience and the constant need to continue to strive to improve so that we can keep providing an environment for people who want to work with us and who are buying into our vision and buying into the company's vision and the state's vision and all the above as well.
You know, there's an old saying, and I can't remember if it was Gandhi or the Dalai Lama or somebody on these, but live as if you'll die tomorrow, but learn as if you'll live forever. And I like that concept. It happens to fit me well. That's why I'm constantly still trying to improve. But I then think about that as it's related to this infinite game in companies, because I constantly go from the individual and individual leadership to the company and company leadership. If you can't lead yourself, you're going to have trouble leading other people. And so part of your personal leadership, I think, is continuing to grow and as times change and improve yourself. So if you think of a philosophy for your company as if it's not a bell curve where you're going to go downhill, it's always going to get better. If you think of your life that way, and it's really hard when things start breaking physically, but your mind keeps going for a long time, then you'll want to develop that. And you will keep going and going and going as if your leadership and your knowledge and your wisdom is not a bell-shaped curve that goes when you turn 35, but it's actually something that can grow forever. So I know there's a lot of concepts in there, but I really believe that if everybody continued to learn, just say, I'm going to be better at everything in my life, they'd be better leaders at work and they'd be better at home, probably.
I agree. So we've talked innovation, we've talked change, we've talked leadership, we've talked culture. For me, I want to sort of harp on the change piece and innovation and just the way the world's going a little bit further. As leaders, we are having to think more about the consumer. And I know Eloise is really interested in this space where consumers are focused more on sustainable and they're more sustainability. They're more socially conscious. In amongst trying to grow and lead businesses and work to purpose, how do we think about all these other things that are going on in which is almost an expectation right now? And how do we lead through this change whilst trying to manage this ever-evolving world as well as managing ourselves and others who are pointing fingers and saying, you're not doing this?
I suspect it'll be legislated. I think what you're talking about in a way is the ESG requirement to look at your business or any business or even government business, whatever business, more holistically. Is the governance right? Is the sustainability right? Are we looking after its people? And where do we source products and all those sort of things? My personal view is that'll be legislated. That'll be the single biggest change that happens in business over the next 10 years. And I think it'll be legislated. I think you'll have to report on it. I think you'll have to, and I think it'll be better for business. It'll be another thing that business needs to think about, but it moves away from that. It's all about profit. It's all about profit, but if I don't tick these things, I can't get my money to make a profit.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good. I think it'll put a focus back.
Well, I mean,
I think there is no greater gift to a company than to be responsible in all that it does. It's more than making money. It's contributing to, like we have 6 stakeholder groups. It's not just the shareholder. We apply equal importance to all of them because we have to be responsible in everything we do. Otherwise, it's a bit of a superficial money-making business, which is, morally, let alone ethically and everything else that comes with it, wrong. So responsible. ESG is being responsible. And we are meant to be it.
Yeah. And you guys are doing a great job with that, which is led by you. You're one of those.
No. It's definitely not. It's led by the team.
Okay. Well, that's true.
We've got
yes,
5,800.
Well played.
Yeah, I feel like I threw capitalism out there earlier in maybe a bit of a dirty way, and I don't want to treat it like a dirty word because it's not. But I do think there is this reform on how we spend and how we sell. And the trend that I'm actually most excited about is the social enterprise trend because it makes so much sense and it gives me so much hope in that I believe the power is with the people. Like, history writes that we make a collaborative decision, that's what happens. And the power is also with with people's decision on where to spend their money. And we're seeing this trend in consumerism, in people spending their dollar where possible with the ethical business, the social business, the business that's considered their, equality policies in their workplace. People are actually becoming more aware of this because they know that it actually makes an effect. When there is that pressure and expectation from the consumer, the businesses respond. And when we consider it in a social enterprise capacity, it's life-changing, or it's world-changing, because all of a sudden you're not strictly making the rich richer, you're actually selling a product that people are buying anyway, or a service, and then some of that dollar, some of that profit that is, kind of exponentially snowballing to the rich at the moment is being somewhat reversed and uplifting people from the opposite end of the economic scale. And what we see is a better world. There's less aggression, there's less crime, there is less, difference, because all of a sudden people have a more fair go. At the moment, someone working 4 jobs might not make as much as someone who just had, 10 grand handed to them when they were 20. It's a completely different scale of opportunity. And unfortunately, hard work doesn't equal reward in the world that we're living in now and how we're exchanging our dollar. So, yeah, the trend of social enterprise is picking up so dramatically as well. There were recent studies that showed it's employing the same amount of people as mining in Australia, the social enterprise sector. And it's infiltrating all conversations, it's infiltrating consumer behaviour. And if typically for-profit businesses don't start adjusting the way that they're spending, you're going to have all social enterprises are going to take over so quickly, because there's no longevity in the way that we're consuming at the moment. It has to change. It's just breeding inequality, and that is not healthy for anyone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I 100% agree on social enterprise. I just think that is the future, and for our state, fantastic business opportunity to really. The key to social enterprise, in my mind, is doing the accounting right. Right? Is calling it something not for profit, in a way, undermines its outcomes, because it's the avoided cost. It's the ability to account for the avoided cost, the things you didn't have to spend because you did this, is actually a profit.
Yeah.
But it's just a different way of looking at how you account for it. So once we get the accounting right, and I think that's where part of the ESG is a bit about that, but there's a broader actual accounting issue around how we do avoided costs. But once the government gets onto avoided costs, particularly in healthcare, do this, and you don't need to do all of that. Well, that means that was the saving from doing that, yeah, from a government's point of view. And that's where I think it needs to go.
And also legislation. Like we're seeing governments as well pick up social procurement policies. How smart is that? We're spending public dollar with social businesses who are providing the service that the government's procured and giving back to communities. It's just doubling the impact. It just makes so much sense to spend our public dollar like that.
But a lot of that comes down to getting a government procurement is difficult.
Yeah.
It's always difficult. Big company procurement's difficult. You've got to, the trick is getting that working well so that you can take social enterprise into account when you're evaluating tenders and say, well, these guys are doing it, I'm getting a benefit from doing that, so they should get it. Even though they don't tick all the other boxes, maybe they tick that box enough.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of recognition, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and I think it's the kind of reorganisation of value as well. It's like, okay, well, perhaps one day we valued this outcome, but okay, we're a government, we're here to represent the people and our constituents. Maybe the value is actually with community. Maybe it's with, investment in, these other
As long as it remains fair is the thing, right?
Yeah. And it still aligns with, which is the most effective and the most efficient option.
Yeah.
But
Problem is that when it's historically been, what's the cheapest way of doing it?
Yeah.
You end up with all the problems associated with necessarily the lowest tenderer.
Yeah.
When you evaluate on a range of different things, you might end up with different outcomes and different benefits long term. So it's one of those things.
Now, I feel like we could continue forever, but I know that you are all very busy people and have to shoot off. So we've got 10 minutes left of this podcast. Time has flown. I feel like there's a part 2 in the mix. Maybe episode 200. That will do it quicker than that.
I think Mick should have his own series.
Yeah, I
think
it's great. Don't worry, I'll be speaking to him about it after. For me, I love, we get a lot of comments about the quick fire questions at the end of the podcast. I've changed them now. The next 100, I've had a set of quick fires for the past 100. Changed them slightly, a few here in time. There's a couple that I've kept because I'm obsessed with them. And
You struggle with change, Dan.
no trouble. It's called evolution. But I want to just jump into some quick fire questions. I actually want everyone to just give a quick answer to it,
geez.
and then we'll wrap up and say our thank yous and move from there. So, first question, which for me is just quickly, what excites you about the next 5 years?
I'm excited to see where social enterprise goes. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Everything in South Australia. I'm so excited about where this state will be in 5 years. It's amazing, in my view.
Yeah. Same.
I'm excited I've literally just finished a session with a guru on my purpose in life, like quite deep session. And I'm excited to see whether I can live my purpose in the next 5 years, more so than I do now. That excites the hell out of me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're waiting for me. Remember, I'm on the other end of the career thing. So from a career standpoint, I'm excited about not having to deal with all these issues. From a personal standpoint, I'm happy to see us progress out of the whole pandemic thing in a stronger, better way. And I think that adversity has made us stronger and will. So I'm optimistic about that.
Yeah. What's one book you're reading or one self-development book that you feel stands out from the crowd?
I'm reading The Leading Edge by Holly Ransom.
Yes.
It's great. She was actually the keynote speaker at my
she's
final, my graduation from school.
Australian.
Yeah.
I know the name.
Yeah, she's great.
I've just finished recently, and it's a bestseller, 4,000 Weeks, which is about what you live to if you live to old age. And it really helps me get perspective on life, which is easy to lose. And it also takes a big swat at social media, or social companies rather. But I found it really a good perspective setter that fits in with the other things I've read. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I read a lot of those sort of things. So I read fictional books that sort of take me somewhere else, so I can just switch off.
9 out of 10, same with me.
Same.
Trying to be serious here.
So for my self-help, I just concentrate on, as I said, I focus on what I need to do. And part of that's every now and then just completely tuning off and reading a crappy fiction novel.
Give your movie book a plug.
The Dictionary of Lost Words is no, it's certainly a book. Local author, amazing story, Pip Williams. It's fantastic. So yeah, by all means, have a read. I think it's a great story.
And mine's like, he's smiling. I'm actually, I do Waterfall Gully a few nights a week with my girlfriends, and we talk about all kinds of movies and books. And the one that came up recently was Eat, Love, Pray. And I felt decidedly uneducated that I'd never seen or heard of it, despite Julia Roberts being in the movie. So I read that. And I love it. And it's very typical for a middle-aged woman who's going through another change of life circumstances. And I actually really, really love it. And my favourite quote is, being happy in unhappiness. Yeah, I loved it. You've got to watch it. If you haven't already watched it, you've got to watch Eat, Love, Pray. I'm like, where has that been all my life? I might watch it again, actually.
Brilliant. If you could have coffee with one current or historical figure, who would it be?
Maybe Albert Einstein.
We share a birthday.
I just,
That's surprising.
phenomenal mind. His person is just a slob guy like everybody else otherwise, but his mind was just almost superhuman. I'd love to spend half an hour with him. Just have been in his presence.
Eloise?
I feel like this man is still alive, but Benjamin Friends. So he was, I believe, the prosecutor for one of the... he prosecuted 20 Nazis, really, and he... I just read his book, the 10... I'm butchering this explanation so much, but his book was so fascinating. He had 10 tips of life, essentially, and what I was really impressed by was his intelligence in... He could only prosecute 20 people, and so he picked the most educated of the group and started to understand, I guess, the reasoning behind the decision-making in World War II. And, just like his commitment to justice was phenomenal. And he just had such a grip on the goodness of life as well and exchanging those kind of joys. So, it was the really nice balanced understanding of justice and joy, which I feel like is kind of rare to see in one person sometimes.
Brilliant. Claire?
Oh, so many in my head. I want to shake Prince Harry, but I'm not going to. Is he a prince?
Please don't say that.
I'm like, get a new PR person. They need to be fired, whoever they are. I think I'd probably say Robin Williams. And the reason for that is the world, I'm sure his family knew, but the world didn't know. And you've got this talent which is, just remarkable. And he had a darkness about him that we were sheltered from. And I'd just like to talk to him and see what we can learn and whether we could have done something differently, because there'll be a lot of people, children, adults around the world looking at him and wondering why and what hope they have if this rich, seemingly perfect life, talented human had no choice but to take his life when he was diagnosed with an illness and, when he suffered with, depression. I just would love to just have time with him to see if we can use that to impact others in a way. We needed to shift how we operate around people that are vulnerable and hide it well. Yeah, so I think he'd be my go-to.
I just watched Goodwill again.
Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah. And the role he plays
He's
in that
remarkable.
is just
Absolutely amazing, man.
Yeah.
and it's not even like he's a comedian, right? But this role of this in and deep human being,
Yeah.
he's unbelievable.
A lot of depressed people turn to comedy
Yeah.
as part of their outlet.
It's a
Yeah.
sad clown thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, who would you?
I know my son would say I should say Taylor Swift. And I would actually really love to have a chat with Barack Obama one time because I think he's a really interesting guy.
Cool.
But I'm going to be really boring and just say I'd love to have a coffee with my dad
Yeah.
because he died years ago, but I miss him.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's great. I'm going to skip a couple because I am conscious of everyone's time. What habit holds you back the most?
Me saying yes. I've got to stop saying yes to everything.
Thank you for saying yes today, though. But,
But you know, you can only do so much.
correct.
Self-doubt.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I was going to say imposter syndrome, similar. Just never giving yourself the space to do it or questioning yourself. Yeah.
For me, it's sometimes being a loner, not getting out, talking to people. I'm able to mask that well.
Yes, mate.
My inclination is to sit on my tractor up in my lawn and not talk to people.
That does sound nice.
Sounds very nice.
Yeah.
How many seats has it got? Just
Yeah.
Next
Can we-
podcast on the tractor. What's your biggest pet peeve?
South Australian roadworks. It's like the intersection of all the problems I have, but I won't go into it. It's so expensive and slow, and to watch people not work while I'm sitting in my car. It's so hard for me. Anyway, that's it. My wife's heard enough of it.
Dirty dishes in the sink. I'm fine with dirty dishes next to the sink, but when they're in the sink and they're collecting dirty water, it makes me feel.
Shouldn't have to deal with
It's
that.
hard work. Yeah.
especially
seems
when they're
appropriate.
greasy.
I know.
There's got to be an AI that can fix
Just
that
keep
up.
them
Yeah.
dry on the side.
But in the sink hides them, like on the.
Yeah, and that's what my housemates say. And I don't care. I'd rather see them dirty than
Yeah.
put my hand in a cold
Yeah.
bowl full of
It's doing
Yeah.
something.
sink water. No thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Horn bibbing in Adelaide.
Oh.
Like, the horn is there as an emergency only to stop an accident. That's the law of the land. But the horn bibs all the time.
Yeah.
Just so much anger. The roads here are beautiful. There's no need for anger. It's actually, I can see butterflies and I can hear birds singing as I'm driving. You want to work in London for a long time. And it's just, but I don't get it.
No.
I don't get it.
I use it to say goodbye.
There's happiness.
It's a honk.
That's okay, but it's not. It's like, the light's red, just letting you know it's going to go green. I know.
Very good.
I've been here before. What is mine? I hear it a billion times a day, so the word ecosystem drives me insane. But that's all right. We got to deal with it, so it's cool.
That was actually another what word you absolutely hate.
Oh, sorry.
What's the word?
I chatted this today, so that's all right.
What?
Ecosystem.
Oh, okay.
Because we're in an ecosystem.
Mine
But
is
that was great.
influencer.
The thing that frustrates me the most is that most of the Back to the Future outcomes of when he went forward, but I still don't have a hoverboard. And I just always want
that
a
is
hoverboard. And I just think we should have one. I don't think it's inappropriate.
No,
I just
I
want my
don't
hoverboard.
reckon it's that hard either.
It can't be that hard, surely.
And a flying car and a hoverboard should
Well,
be.
flying car, I think we can put to rest.
Matty
Yeah,
Pearson.
Well, it's going to be too loud to have flying cars. And what happens if one breaks down? Like then, like that's the part.
Call the RAA.
Yeah, but it's going to kill people, right? Like this is
okay,
the.
so,
Yeah.
They
Anyway.
go on roads. Newsflash.
No, but you can't, let's just say there's an electromagnetic pulse that shoots through and from the sun or solar flare or something, then everything falls from the sky. I think underground is the way, which is why Elon's gone with the tunnel boring.
Tunneling, yeah.
I think he's worked it out. He's like, it's not happening up there, it's going down under there. It's safer. Anyway.
They're expensive tunnel boring machines.
They are.
Like millions.
You would know.
Millions. Like
Yeah.
tens
And
of
they leave them in
millions.
there.
Yeah.
They put them out in it.
Yeah.
What's one word that you
the
absolutely...
thing is building a new type of boring machine, right? Anyway, we won't get into that.
Anyway, I'm actually not going to ask the rest because a few of you have got to go. I know we're over time.
I might
It's
pick
all your
up.
fault.
Oh, no,
Like,
fair feeling. He glanced at
Have
me.
you got five?
Yeah,
go for
five
it.
more.
Yeah,
five.
no, smash it out, my friend.
Done. What's one word that you absolutely hate?
I've done one.
You've done yours. So ecosystem with Andrew.
Can you come back to me? I've got to
Yeah.
think of an appropriate one.
Influencer.
Influencer. Is that because of the social media aspect of it, or?
Probably. And, when I first saw it, I said, it's not a title. I started laughing. It's not even an ambition. But it's the number one job that a lot of young people
Yeah.
want. And so it has really dated me. So it probably says more about me than anything else.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, we in the office throw a lot of shade on the word creator, which is the new influencer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm so behind.
there's been a progression. They're called creators now,
Yeah. Okay.
which I just think is very ambiguous.
Plain gold.
Are you an artist? Are you a poet? Like, pick a lane, I think. Yeah.
If you could pay someone to do your chores, what? No, you feel like to come back with you.
Like, seriously?
No, well,
Touching.
I went that way and now I've got to come back. I don't do U-turns
Mate.
very well. Yeah.
Mate. You made the word mate.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, when I used to work in prisons, if you ever, well, I never did, but some of the guys would say to the prisoners, "Hey, mate," and the amount of times the prisoners would say, "I ain't your mate. Don't call you me your mate."
Yeah.
And I think that's affected me later in life because now when I hear mate, I'm like, I ain't
We're
your
not
mate.
mates.
I ain't your mate. I don't even know your name. Like, it's funny. It's influenced my life. So, mate.
My wife sometimes like when she gets angry.
Note
she
to self when talking.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, good day, mate. I'll be like,
My wife, when she gets angry, she knows that one way to piss me off is to say, "What are you doing, mate?" Or use like call me mate.
Yeah.
oh,
I don't mind if anyone else calls me, but when my wife calls me mate, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not your mate.
Yeah.
I am your husband.
Yeah.
Like I am not your mate. But anyway, it is a pet
Let's
peeve.
look at the org chart.
yeah. Mate is in there. Clear.
Yeah. I use the word mate all the time, but it's just when one person in this world can call me mate. It's just that's my pet peeve and word as well. If you could pay someone to do one of your chores, which one would it be?
Washing and straightening my hair. Oh my goodness, because I've got curly hair
Yeah.
and lots of it. I hate it.
Weeding.
We.
Again, I live on Big Preppy.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
I don't think anyone.
sorry.
does, is it?
I quite love doing chores, like cleaning. It's meditative for me.
Yeah.
Gardening, love it. I'll stay in the garden all day. But the thing that I think of often is I wish someone could just wee for me during the day. You're at your desk, you're in mid-task, and you need a wee, and you think like, "Why? I have to stop my day."
And dishwasher.
Dishwashing's fine.
You don't ever have
Working
that
from
sink
home
thing
could solve that.
anymore.
Oh yeah, but I don't mind cleaning them.
Oh, okay.
I just don't like other people putting
just don't
dishes
want
in
to
the sink. Yeah, but when you're mid like flow and work
Yeah.
and everything's
Yeah.
You've got creative visions
Is it
running.
a chore though? Weeing is a chore.
I mean, it's not.
It's distracting.
It's just
It can-
like something you wish you didn't have to
Yeah.
do during the
Like
day.
I'm doing it
I
wrong.
think. Yeah.
yeah.
What's mine? I would love there to be a way where dishes get from the dishwasher into the cupboards.
Yeah.
Because I swear I do it 50 times
Yeah.
a day, and
Yeah.
every time I look at it, I got to do it again.
How does this fall?
Yeah.
And how often do you get caught out with something that's collected water
Yeah.
and you didn't spot it?
I know.
Like the lunch boxes, you take it out and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
The water, you're like, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't
Or
see
the
that
other thing
coming.
is, going back to dishwashers, it's really a dishwasher thing. I love it stacked right. There's one thing, it needs to be
I agree.
Swedish precision. Ding, ding.
Yeah.
And it drives me insane when people go, "Psst."
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife does it out of just pure spite. Just,
Yeah.
My wife's about to turn the dishwasher on, and there's still 20 dishes in the dishwasher. And I look at it, I'm like, "Mate, I can make those fit. Don't worry about that."
Mate.
No, not your mate.
Sorry.
Not your mate. Don't worry, just put some water on and leave in the sink. Eloise will sort it later. Yeah.
Here's one I'm going to enjoy. I think. What's the first thing that you would do if you became invisible?
I would, I would get into the, sounds terrible, the Chinese government and figure out what they're doing. I'd have to learn Mandarin.
That's a good one. Or the roadworks people and figure out.
Oh, yeah, what's going on with those roadworks people?
Just rub it off the whiteboard in the council. We're not doing that road.
Anyone?
What would I do?
No,
terrible.
Your brain's going in a way that I don't want it to go.
I've actually gone all around the world a few times. I'm like, where do I stop? I would actually, just because, you know, I love the drama of other people's drama. I would actually really love to be in the conversation with King Charles about Harry and Meghan and how they're managing that cluster that is currently happening. I would love to just hear the thought processes around how do we crisis manage this? How do we do it? Wow.
Yeah.
That wouldn't add any value to life at all or anything, you know, philanthropic, but just from a sick satisfaction, I'd love to just see it all playing out. Yeah, it'd be fun.
I got nothing. I can't think of anything I desperately do. What would I do? I'll wait for Eloise. You get me.
Well, yeah, I'm struggling. I'm thinking like, well, if I'm similar, like just for the self-satisfaction, I think I'd love to be on a movie set or a drama series set, or even behind stage of some concert, just to see what it's like, just out of curiosity. But then I think you never meet your heroes. Like, you don't want to see that as well. You want to see the final product. I just love arts and drama. Love to know what it's like to, yeah.
I got nothing.
Nothing?
Sorry.
All right. I'm going to jump to the last question, which is, what is your best dad/mum joke or shit joke? Anyone prepare for that?
I do not.
Yeah. So
He's ready. He's got one out of the hopper.
So I had to go see my prostate doctor, and he said, well, you know, I'm going to have to do a prostate check and put the rubber gloves on. And I said, whoa, I want a second opinion. He said, okay, I'll use 2 fingers.
Is that a dad joke?
That's a bad joke.
I like that.
How about guess who I bumped into on my way to getting my glasses fixed?
Who?
Everyone.
That's a
my
good.
dad joke.
That's a dad joke.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
To get to the other side.
Oh, that's horrible. You
That's
can't
not
say
right.
that. Is that all you've got?
That's the only appropriate one I've got.
Oh, tell me an inappropriate one.
I can't.
All right. No, I get it.
A bar joke. So a monkey walks into the bar and he asks the bartender, can I have a banana? And the bartender goes, no, you can't have a banana. We don't sell bananas and you're a monkey. Get out of my bar. So he leaves and he comes back the next day and he goes, hey, can I have a banana? And he goes, mate, I've told you, mate, we don't sell bananas and you're a monkey. I can't serve you. Get out of my bar. He comes back the third day and he says, the monkey asks the bartender, can I please have a banana? And the bartender goes, mate, I've told you 3 times now, we don't sell bananas. You're a monkey. I can't serve you. If you come back tomorrow, I'm going to nail your tongue to the wall. Get out of my bar. So the monkey comes back the 4th day and he asks the bartender, hey, mate, do you have any nails? And the bartender goes, no. And he goes, well, can I have a banana then?
Love it.
Cheeky monkey. Very good. Look, thank you very much for everyone coming on today. This is obviously something that means a lot to me to invite you guys here. And again, I'm just actually really thankful of not you not only agreeing to come on the podcast, but thankful of the relationships that we've developed over the past couple of years, and I look forward to everything that we can do together in the future and how we can work together and continue conversations. So I'm really excited about what the future holds for the business that I work in, and then the podcast itself, and I hope that you can all be part of it moving forward. So thanks again for everything.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
And thanks to your crew.
Yeah,
For,
thank you. Thank you, Natural, and thank you, Gabs, for all your efforts in the 100 podcasts. You're an absolute superstar. I really appreciate you. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the podcast all. You can check out the show notes if there was anything of interest to you and find out more about us at synergyiq.com.au. I am going to ask though, if you did like the podcast, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate and review. And if you didn't like it, that's all right too. There's no need to do anything. Take care guys, all the best.